Good evening, good evening, good evening. We should be live, I think, hopefully. Somebody can let me know in the chat, I'm sure. But welcome, good evening, Anne-Marie, 420 something. Welcome to my second ever live Q&A. It's just gone, let me have a little look here. It's just gone 1 a.m. here in the UK, in Kuala Lumpur, not in the UK anymore. Hopefully this is coming through loud and clear. You know, I was sitting having a little chuckle to myself a couple of minutes ago. I was thinking about last week being in the hospital. And mainly I was thinking about leaving the hospital. I still can't get over the pianist in the reception area. It kind of blows my mind a little bit that when you're in a hospital and you're in the reception area, they've got a pianist. And somebody wrote to me and said, do you think they've got a repertoire of tunes that they play? When you used to get like hospital DJs, right? And you might be, I don't think other than this stay here in Kuala Lumpur, I've ever been in hospital for many years, many years. In fact, one time I've had a major stay I can really think of. But I always think about like hospital radios, and they would have a list of tunes that they could play and that they couldn't, right? So that they weren't playing things that would be a bit touch and go, right? So they would have like a kind of band list. And so somebody wrote to me a couple of days ago and said, do you think the pianist had a list of tracks that they could play and might not play? Yeah, bright side of life, exactly, Jenny. That's exactly it, right? So you would have a list. And I was wondering if K, Sarah, Sarah, and then ABBA, Money, 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 might be like on that list of repertoire. But it was just see if you, I mean, I know I showed it in the video, right? But see if you could just have seen it with your own eyes. This reception area filled with people waiting to be checked into hospital, waiting to be seen for whichever ailments you've got. And then you've got security guard kind of just keeping an eye over the place. Good evening, Dr. Booze. Good evening, Ian Thompson. Welcome back, mate. Nice to see you. You know, you've got like security guard keeping an eye on you. And then I'm sitting there, right, and what I'm kind of looking at is they had a vending machine to get flowers. Like, so they had these bouquets of flowers. And I was saying to Yvonne, God, that's really well put together, right? Because if you're coming to visit somebody, although the last time I was in, well, it would have been visiting my dad last year. And I don't think they really wanted you to bring flowers in. I think that was one of the kind of things now, probably the nanny state of the UK where things are banned. Sorry, I'm just reading The Drugs Don't Work by the Fifth. That's good, Simon. That's good. That's on the list. The drugs don't work. But yeah, flowers were kind of banned, right? And then I'm sitting there looking at this vending machine that's got beautiful bouquets of flowers. So somebody must come in every day and fill this thing, right? And then you've got the pianist sitting there playing Money, Money, Money. And it's not even the song. Wasn't even the song that was the irony for me. It was the fact that it was right outside the bank. The bank is in the reception area of the hospital for you to get the cash, to pay the bill, to keep yourself alive. Good evening, 333 Kaza and Lorem Ipsum. You're not too late, you're just on time. Yeah, so you get we're not even talking a cash machine. This isn't like a just go and lift money. This is a bank. You had an actual bank inside the reception of the hospital. And then this dude sitting at the piano with his face mask on. And I gave him a little look because I was videoing and he was kind of looking at me like, are you videoing me? And I'm like, yeah, I mean, this is funny. This is funny as hell. We're in reception of the hospital. People are trying to stay alive, treat their ailments, and you're playing Money, Money, Money outside the bank. So I haven't honestly got over that yet. Just the irony of the whole situation was, it was, people often overuse the whole chef's kiss thing, right? But that moment was that was a true chef's kiss moment. Now, see, Paul, when you're mentioning the vending machine, right? That was one of the only other things that I kept in my brain was the hospital was split into two sections, right? So you had Block A and Block B, and I was in Block B, but when I was going for the surgery, they wheeled me to Block A. Now, when Yvonne and I were in the hospital a couple of times, I had to go and book in for the next visit or just go and pay the bill. Depending on which day that was, either you could pay it in the reception of Block A or Block B, right? So I'm in Block B, but Block B, during, like, I think the Sunday, they were like, oh, you need to go to Block A. So Yvonne and I had walked it a couple of times. Girlfriend in a coma. Perfect, Mark. Perfect. I love these. These are great. Live and let die. Yep, perfect. So Yvonne and I had walked between the two, right, a couple of times, and there was like a little tunnel on the ground floor at the car park area. Security outside, keeping cars moving along, like really well organised, just really great infrastructure, right? Like, people say this is like a third world country, right? Britain is a third world country. This is the infrastructure here is phenomenal, right? Just very, very high level. At times, we've been out on the streets, right? And see at night when there's a lot of neon and you've got the high passing, it's like Blade Runner. I've said to Yvonne a couple of times, it's like we're living in Blade Runner right now. But so we're walking between Block A and Block B. Now, the only thing that really stuck in my head beyond the piano player was that when I was going for surgery, when I was thinking I was in like the movie Hostel, where I was getting taken down into the basement, but before they took me down into the basement for the surgery, they took me across like a sky bridge. So you had like Tower A, Tower B, and then a sky bridge, and they wheeled me across. And see, when they were wheeling me across, there was vending machines for like coffee and donuts and all sorts. And each time I was getting wheeled by, I was like, fancy a little coffee or something. They were like, not like the kind of vending machines that you put 20 pence in and you get the worst coffee or hot chocolate of your life. Like, you knew that the quality of the drink that you were going to get out of this machine was going to be good. But that was the only, when you're just, I don't know if you've laid in a bed before and got wheeled between different wards, right? But you're just kind of lying there, looking at the roof passing you by. And we had to get into a couple of lifts, and see, each time I got in the lift, the staff that were obviously going about their normal jobs were like looking at me and going, oh, hello, like, hello, hello. And I was like, hello. 7 in the morning, like, hello, hello. Just a kind of weird little interaction. I will survive. That's up there. Now, see, when we're talking about this, right? This also stuck in my mind a little bit, not to kind of change the tone of this a little bit here, right? But I had my headphones, right? And I mentioned this in the video, but the staff were kind of like, try and not have them on because we're trying to take your temperature. This all came about because every hour somebody was coming into the room, and this woman came in at night, and every time they would do like the blood pressure, they would do the fingertip thing for your heart rate. And then they were quite often, I had the thing in my hand, right? The first time I went in, I had it in my left hand out the way. I'm right-handed, so I could use my phone. The second time I was in, well, the last time for the sepsis thing, right? I thought she was just taking blood. Now, see, because I have tattoos, right? They really struggled to see the veins on my arms. So they were kind of like, huh. So I went, look, do you want to take it out my hand? She was like, yeah. So she went to take it out my hand, and I thought she was just going to take blood, and she didn't. She put I can't mind what you call it, the tube thing in it. Cannula, is that right? So she was gonna she put the cannula in. I'm like, oh, it's on my right hand. And so then they were coming in every hour and doing the flush through, and then putting the antibiotics and the painkillers and all that in and swapping it around, right? But while she was doing that, every time they would come in, they would stick the thing in your ear, take the blood pressure, right? Take the blood pressure from you. And so I'm sitting with these big Sony headphones on, right, with a fever. Like sitting there like sweating. I mean, sweating, right? And I've got the headphones on because all I can hear is like that, right? And I'm like, I'm getting flashbacks to, telling you guys about freaking out the first time round, and I'm like, can I freak out? And all I can hear is like that, right? And I'm like, oh, this lad. So I've got my headphones on. So the woman was like that to me, look, try and not have the headphones on, so that, because she took the temperature and she was like, oh, mega fever, and she left. And then she come back in, she's like, we need to check your fever again. She put the thing in. She was like, oh, yeah, really high fever. Then she left, and then she come back and she was like, are you wearing headphones? I was like, yeah. She was like, right, don't wear the headphones. So then she left, and then came back minutes later, and the fever, I mean, it came down a little bit, right? But to what somebody had just posted in the comments, right? I talk about this kind of synchronicity sometimes with like music, right? So when Yvonne and I had arrived here, we'd heard Oasis in a coffee shop nearby, and we had just been to see Oasis. And then we've left the first apartment, came to this apartment. We went for a coffee across the street, and they were playing, it was an Oasis cover song, right? So it was Wonderwall performed by a woman. I was like to Yvonne, synchronicity here, right? Synchronicity. There's something in this. And so I'm lying in my bed with a fever, right? And I'm like, I'm going spare in my own head. So I got my phone out and I put the headphones on, and I went onto Spotify. And the first thing that came up on Spotify was David Gilmour's new album, Pink Floyd. So whoever just mentioned Comfortably Numb, right? That kind of clicked in my head there. Now, David Gilmour, one of the very famous members of Pink Floyd. You've kind of got, in my head, you have this rivalry of Roger Waters and David Gilmour. Roger Waters is kind of seen as sometimes the antagonist in the situation, and Dave Gilmour to me always comes across as the kind of calming, his voice in the tracks are always calming. So Dave Gilmour's new album comes up, right? Advertisement on Spotify. Now, the reason that's like a sign to me is that last year, just after my dad had passed away, right, Yvonne and I had tickets to a couple of concerts. And I've talked about this, right? We went to see a few bands, and it was quite settling in my mind that I felt absolutely nothing at those shows. Bands that I care about, that I've spent my whole life following, I had like zero real interest in. I was just kind of standing there watching. However, we, at a very last minute, got the chance to get tickets to go see David Gilmour do his warm-up show in Brighton. It was like for maybe 2,000 people, right? It was in Brighton Centre, and he was about to embark on this kind of like mini tour where he was going to do, I think, something like 6 nights at the Royal Albert Hall, 6 nights in Milan, 6 nights at Madison Square Gardens. And this was his practice session. It was like £20 for the tickets, right? And Yvonne and I went. And when we got there, I didn't really know what to expect. But we were just on the floor, and the band were on the floor. So Yvonne and I were level with the band, level with them. And they had some cameras there. And there was a bit of a gap. There was no stage. There was no stage set up. And we watched it, right? We watched this like 2-hour show. Good evening with Birdie, welcome. And Ian, I don't disagree. So we watched this show of Roger Waters. Because I'm reading Ian's comment there, Roger Waters is a tool. I'm watching this show of Dave Gilmour, right? And it was blowing me away. I could feel the emotion in it, right? I could feel the whole this was like special. This was like a special show to go and see. Now, weeks later, Yvonne and I would then go and see the same show, but this time at the Royal Albert Hall. So I don't know what the Royal Albert Hall holds, 10,000 people or whatever. Now, where all that comes round to, right, is just before my dad passed away, Yvonne's uncle passed away. And we went to the funeral, and, you know, it was a nice service. And at that service, our uncle had selected a couple of tracks to play, right? And one of them was Not Comfortably Numb. What am I thinking of? We're just two lost souls swimming in a fishbowl. That one, right? So he plays that at the funeral, right? That's one of his tracks. And then my dad passed away. And the reason I'm linking that, right, is that when I'm at the show to see Dave Gilmour is 78 years old. 78 years old. And he's on stage and he's got his daughter in the band. And they're, you know, this is like, I'm getting the feeling that this is like Dave Gilmour's Thank You, Paul, Wish You Were Here. Just escaped me there, went off the tip of my tongue. So he's performing that track with his daughter, and to me it kind of looks like Dave Gilmour's last hurrah, last big kind of swan song tour. And I'm standing there having just watched my dad pass away at 77. And I couldn't help but stand there and think, God almighty, 77, Dave Gilmour's here on stage playing guitar with his daughter at 78. And just, you know, looking sprightly and looking well. And then I'm fast forward to last Friday night, and I'm sitting in the hospital and I open my phone and it comes up, Dave Gilmour. It's his album and it's live from those shows. So it's the one that Yvonne and I's gone to at Royal Albert Hall. It's a track from each of the kind of main shows. And on comes Wish You Were Here. Well, Romany, thanks Justin. Yeah, Romany, great artist in her own right on stage performing some of that. She's got a track on Dave Gilmour's most recent album, beautiful track. You know, and I'm lying in my bed at that point with a fever, right? And again, it comes back to, if you've ever seen the movie The Wall, right, Roger Waters' own album, if you've seen the actual movie, there's portions of that which are set around him having a fever, right? I'm lying in bed with a fever, listening to these songs about a fever by somebody that's a year older than my dad, who's just passed away. And then I'm listening to that song, Wish You Were Here. And I can tell you, see at that moment, maybe this is just me, but my brain was in like overdrive with just all of the thoughts of like joining all of that together. That's probably the first time I've managed to say all of that without without crying about it. But it was just one of those little moments again where you think about the synchronicity of it all. That's, you know, Chris, that's a great point. Gilmour discovered Kate Bush, another legendary artist. You know, so I was lying in my bed last week listening to that song, and I'm like, what, you know, of all the things that Spotify could serve up to you as you open the app, it happened to be that album. And then having been at that show and watched a lot of that, it was quite wild to just be lying in my bed, fever running through me. So that was a little thing that was kind of going through my head. And then I meant to include this in one of the videos, right? But I think feeling like so unwell, this fever and everything else, right? There was a woman that would come in each day come into my room. She had a little iPad and you had to pick breakfast, lunch and dinner, right? And so breakfast, you could have like croissant and scrambled egg. And I was like, I just went into like this kind of childlike mentality where I was like, cornflakes, I just want cornflakes and milk. So they had that on the list, right? And they had all sorts of other stuff. And then lunch and dinner. And the lunches and dinners were like nearly all rice and chicken, or rice and kind of like black bean sauce with like beef or something like that. Very, as you would expect here in Malaysia, right? Very Malaysian orientated. And Yvonne said to me, do you want me to bring anything in? Like, do you want anything in particular? And I was like, a cheese sandwich. Just a, I would call that a piece and cheese. I don't know if that's what you would call it, right? But just two bits of bread, a bit of butter, and a couple of slices of cheese, right? And Yvonne came in with a wee packed lunch one of the days, and I took a photo of it, right? And I was like, oh, I must tell this when I'm talking about this next. Just the satisfaction of, like, when you've not been well, right? And then you just want something old school, you just want something basic. And I was like, a cheese sandwich. And see, since then until now, just before this live stream started, that's all I've been eating. I mean, Yvonne's been feeding me with like everything healthy. We're having salads, we're having, like I'm drinking a lot of liquids, a lot of waters, hydrations, and keeping it healthy. But cheese sandwich, a classic butty. Now, see, when it comes to that stuff, right, I'm super fussy when it comes to like food stuff. When it comes to butter on things, right, if I can see the butter, my brain is like, I don't want that. It's got to be hidden for some reason. And so Yvonne has to make it a very specific way. It's like if you get a cracker with cheese on it, if I can see the butter licking round the outside of the cheese, I'm like, yeah, that kind of gives me the dry heave on certain things. So yeah, I mean, I'll see if I can do this. Show on the stream. There you go, Jenny with bacon, egg, butty. If there was ever anything that gave me the dry heave more, it would be bacon and egg together. That's like a wronging for me. Bacon, yes. With butter, no. It would be dry bread, bacon, and maybe brown sauce. Never tomato sauce. But yeah, good evening, Mark, mate. How you doing? Thanks for popping in and catching up with us. I hope you're good. And Orshan, my buddy from Ireland. I hope you're well, mate. So yeah, classic cheese sandwiches, right? And then, people have been mentioning to me, I've had a couple of comments in the last couple of videos just talking about Yvonne, making sure to pay attention to the stress that Yvonne would have gone through in that situation. And so, just calling it out here, very stressful for Yvonne. I can't imagine. I'll tell you, on the first night that I was in the hospital, that most recent visit, Yvonne left and discovered that her data on her phone had ran out. So I'm texting her like, are you okay? And there's no response. So I'm panicking, and she's in the taxi panicking because her data's ran out. She's in the taxi, and the taxi driver, it was at the same time that there was a huge conference on here. So Trump was here, military were here, many of the kind of world leaders were taking part. China was here. They were having a conference. This is where I think, is it the Cambodia and Thailand resolved their 5-day war that they were having. Trump kind of organised to bring a peace deal round. So there was traffic everywhere, insane traffic everywhere. So Yvonne's in the taxi, and the taxi driver takes the wrong turning, and he ends up on the motorway. So Yvonne's in the taxi freaking out, and I've no way to get a hold of her. And it's just those little moments where you think you've thought through everything, and then you kind of realise maybe you haven't. Maybe just something like that just goes slightly awry. Right, let me jump back a little bit, and I'll just bring this question up. So, question. You managed to get out before the exit tax possibly being introduced. Just wondering how you've done with your savings, as you're now no longer a UK resident. So you can have an ISA, just to confirm on that question, Kaza. You can hold an ISA. You can continue to earn within the ISA. You just cannot add any new money to the ISA. So before we left the UK and before I filled in the paperwork to exit as a UK citizen, I maxed out my ISA and Yvonne's for this year. And I've read there's a lot of speculation about Rachel Reeves when she comes back to deliver her speech. Is it the 26th of November, I think, that there will be a reduction in next year's ISA allowance, which I think I've read it could be as low as £3,000. I've read it could be somewhere around £12,000 that the new limit is allocated. But you can have an ISA. I have an ISA now with Trading 212 is the company that I use. The reason I use Trading 212 is that if you have, they offer a cash ISA and a stocks and shares ISA, and you can transfer the money between the two of them within the app really simply. If you have money within Trading 212 on the cash ISA, you'll need to check this, right, just for absolute legitimacy, but I think it pays 3.85% in the cash ISA. But if you move your cash into the stocks and shares side of the Trading 212 ISA app, it actually pays a slightly higher percentage of 4% just for having the cash in that side. Now, clearly, Trading 212 wants you to probably invest in the stock market, put money into it, so they offer you that little bit more of an incentive. If you move the money over, it's not automatic. You have to click a button in that side to confirm that you want to have interest paid in the stocks and shares side. So I hope that kind of answers that. So I have an ISA, I'm still earning. In terms of bank accounts, etc., I use Revolut, which is predominantly known as a Nomad style bank account used to people traveling. We have Yvonne's parents' house we use as a care of address. So all of our banking, all of our stocks and shares platforms are updated with the care of address whilst we're out of the UK. We don't own any property. We don't have houses or anything. And I think, as I mentioned on the last live stream, I have completed the P85 documentation, which has gone to HMRC to confirm that I am out of the UK, so that I will no longer be paying tax within the UK. Now, all I'm doing for that is tracking from flights the dates that I left the country. So I've got tickets from Emirates from the 17th of September, which is the last date I was in the UK. Now, the rules on this are that if I do not return to the UK within 5 years, that's a long time, I can appreciate, as long as it's not over, and I can't remember the number of days, I think it's like, I don't know, I'd need to check, but there's a number of days that you can come back to the UK, like for visiting family, short holiday, and then leave again and not break the rules. And then there's a set period where you would officially become a tax resident again. As long as I don't do that within 5 years, I officially write off any tax that I would owe to the UK. So from trading stocks and shares, from any earnings, from YouTube, etc. So right now, I'm earning as a YouTube content creator. I get paid monthly as I share that information here on the channel. If I was based in the UK as a UK resident, I'd pay tax on that. But as I'm out of the country and YouTube is an American business, I don't need to pay tax on that, providing I don't break any of that information or any of those terms and conditions. So really my goal is to be out of the country long enough to not pay tax. So once I pass that 5-year threshold, then I don't owe any tax whatsoever to the UK. Now, obviously, if I'm in other countries for long enough, I would then become a citizen there, or at least move into a tax-paying threshold. So if I was in here, Malaysia, for 180 days or more within a calendar year, I would owe tax here. However, the tax here is incredibly low. But with our goal of continually moving around different territories on tourist visas, we're effectively not becoming a tax resident in any of those locations. So I hope that kind of gives a bit of info on some of that stuff. So much bloody red tape. Yes, there is. But once you kind of figure out how to navigate through each of these kind of territories on tourist visas, then you kind of get up to speed with it. Now, I'll say this, I've found AI, Chat GPT, to be incredibly helpful on all of this. I use the program every single day for many activities, from travel bookings to just understanding visas, to even really simple things like what are filming policies in different countries? Like, can I vlog? Can I just make stuff? Do I have to blur faces? I use it for all of that kind of thing. And I'll go into a bit more detail in future videos to talk about this because I think it's quite helpful. But yeah, AI helps me. So to answer this question to Arthur, so you don't pay taxes anywhere? No. That's one of the points about being a nomad. Here in Malaysia, as long as I'm not here in or in a calendar year, January to December, for more than 180 days, I don't pay tax here. As long as I'm not in Thailand for 180 days or more, I don't pay tax there. You're officially in this grey area of not being a resident anywhere. And because I don't own any property in the UK, because I've given up my status in the UK, I don't pay tax in the UK either. My earnings here on YouTube come from an American company and they're paid into a UK bank account, but I would need to declare tax on that. So Anne, let me just pull this up. So to answer Anne, how long does a Malaysian tourist visa last? 3 months, 90 days. 90 days is a tourist visa. And then effectively I can leave and travel to Thailand. And typically, as long as you're out of the country for, most people say 7 to 10 days. So many people who are living here, expats, we've met a number of British people who are living here, who have been here for years, who only have a tourist visa. And what they're doing is they have a rented apartment. They've got a place where they're renting for 6 to 12 months. And every 3 months they leave and go to either Bali or Thailand or Vietnam for a short stay and then return, and your 3 months starts again. So the goal for us is effectively to kind of follow that methodology. And again, I just want to say, like, it's not to never have a home. It's just that right now we don't want to have a home. We don't want to find a place. As an alternative to this, what you can do is you can apply for a Nomad visa, which is fairly easy to get a hold of. And that would give you a longer stay in the territory. That would give you between 6 to 12 months if you wanted it before having to renew. And to do that, you just have to show some level of income. So I think that's around about $1,000 a month coming into your bank account. So my YouTube channel here, and I'm using stocks and shares and some savings, and that would cover you. So again, if you have savings, right, if you have enough to show that you've got 6 months worth of living, you could apply for a Nomad visa if you want to stay longer. We're just not at the stage yet of saying we want to live here for 6 to 12 months. We want to explore. And to give you an idea, we were due to leave to go to Thailand on the 25th of November. And with Yvonne and I, with 2 suitcases, the suitcases is what's cost the most. The flight to Thailand was £280 or £300, super cheap. We could have halved that if we can reduce the luggage down, because the 2 suitcases are what's costing most of the money. But I'll say this, I've got too much stuff. I've got too many clothes. Yvonne counted them the other day, and I have something like 20 t-shirts with me, and I'm living in about 4 or 5, and I've got a pair of jeans. I think I've got like 3 pairs of linen trousers that I've never had on yet. I've got 5 pairs of shorts. I think I've lived in 2 of them so far, and everything's so cheap around. So when you need something, you just go to the shops and buy it. Like, if you need it, it's so low cost for clothing here. And I've brought this stuff with me, and already I'm like, got too many things. I need to reduce this down. So we could definitely trim back. I think we could probably go to 1 suitcase between us, and live from it. And I follow another channel called Retire and Go. I think the guy's name's Chris. And he travels around Malaysia. I think he's 55 or 57. He travels around doing similar to us. He just does a month in each location and then moves. And he just does it with a backpack, more than enough clothes. He's got like 4 shirts or something with him, and he's traveling around with it. So, okay, let me skip back because I thought I'd missed not paying tax to the UK government parasites. Lovely. Let me flash that up. You know, this. Some people deem that is a controversial topic, right? Am I evading tax? Well, at this stage, I think if I knew my money was being spent wisely, if I knew it was going into a system where they actually knew what they were doing, I would be happy with that. But the experiences I've had over the last number of years, and then particularly over the last year with the hospital situation and my dad in hospital, I just feel like, you know, Rachel Reeves is going to come back on the 26th of November and break Labour's policy, which was not to increase taxes, after saying they had already gone through a major event to stabilise the country. It's never going to be enough. Has there ever been a year what you can remember where they've came to the ballot box and said, you know what, things are going pretty good, we're going to reduce down, we're going to take a couple of things away, we want the country to be buoyant, we want people to have a spring in their step, so we're going to chip away at VAT or income tax? No, every time they just come and take, and now it's going to be paper mail, and it's just one thing after another, and I am just over that. I'm just so over that, especially when I come here, right? There's no 20% VAT here. I'll tell you, I was trying to buy a piece of software today online, and when I was on the website, right, it was recognising that my IP address was here in Malaysia, and so the software was like £99, right, or $99, I think it was, and then it came up the Malaysian price, and it was actually slightly cheaper, and then I went, oh, I need to put my UK address in, because that's where my bank card is, and I put my UK address in, and the price went up because it added 20% VAT on top of it, and I was like, it's just take all the time. So it's not tax evasion, it's tax avoidance. Tax avoidance is perfectly legal. Yeah, exactly. I just think about how wasteful they are. Look, I'm paying attention here. I'm seeing what's going on in the news. I watched the House of Commons this week with David Lammy. Wow. Just wow. The prisoners being released left, right and centre. And then the rumours about Rachel Reeves. Will Stammer gets on a flight, flies to Brazil with Sadiq Khan, spunking money up the wall left, right and centre, to then come back and tell you not to take a holiday. All whilst you're under the threat of digital ID. Now, I talked to friends about this years ago when the ID concept came in around COVID, and I could see down the line what was coming. I read about how it would be, 15-minute cities and tracking where you were going, and oh, you've used too much CO2 this week, so we're going to have to change what you can purchase, and oh, you've had 2 pints at the pub. Well, technically you're now a danger to the NHS, so your national insurance is going to have to go up. This is all the kind of way that I see it going. And I just thought, at the time when I was saying to Yvonne, I just want to be out of this. And I know there's governments here, there's governments everywhere, but I just feel like here, I'm out of that mix. I'm out of what's going on in the UK, that relentless march of take from you. And, as I said in the video when I walked around the park the other day, these are people who have never had jobs. They've been in the Labour Party their whole life. They are institutionalised to that system, and they don't know what it's like to work in a business, to manage budgets, to manage P&Ls, to manage teams, to put all that risk on yourself, right? They've all worked where the public's money's funded it all, and they're really good at spending the public's money without any care. And I think when I see that, I'm like, can I be bothered dealing with years more of this? Can I be bothered? And when it comes to yes, and I totally agree, we're already tracked with smartphones and everything else, but I've got a Revolut account, I've got a Halifax account, right? Here's where I see the difference. Revolut doesn't care if I post something about how I think Keir Starmer's doing a shitty job on X, but the government does. If I go on and I say something disparaging about the government online, the next time I then go into the supermarket, it's like, your app doesn't work. Revolut doesn't do that. So I'm willing to tolerate a level of tracking, but I'm not willing to tolerate the government tracking me. Right? And the excuses I hear about all of this, digital ID, the same arguments come back. We've got passports, we've got driving licenses, we've got national insurance accounts. This extra level is not going to fix anything but put money in Tony Blair and his son's pockets. All right, let me skip back. You're not British anymore, John, so your opinion is mute. Well, let me just say, Chris, until the HMRC come back and say, tick, your P85 document is approved, I would still consider myself as being British. Just for an extra, just that little window, just that little bit longer before that changes. All right. Keep using cash. I would say this here, right? We've lifted money in Malaysia from the cash machines. When you go to the street markets, etc., cash is king. Cash is absolutely king. But most of the main stores and travel, etc., is all pretty much digitized. I think the key difference is I just don't trust the British government with how they will manage this. I just don't trust them. I don't think they've got good intentions. I just think the level of lies and deceit that we've seen so far, right? If you go through the list, winter fuel allowance, the list is endless, right? Farmers and the inheritance. You go through the list. It's just lie after lie after lie. And I think what you've seen in the last couple of weeks is just, you almost have a scandal a day, right? You got David Lammy goes in and gives his speech in the House of Commons, and then the next day it's like Lisa Nandy's taking money from somebody and then giving them a top job, and you're just like, it's just another scandal. It's just another scandal. It's just another scandal. And they've only been in power for 14 months or something. So let me just have a quick look here. There's a question here about Revolut. Revolut also shut down accounts, happened to me. Yep, I'm an avid follower of the subreddit for Revolut, and I see what happens with these accounts. I see them get shut down. They all have the potential of being shut down at some point. I can tell you I have a Co-op account, a Halifax account, a Chase Bank account, a Revolut account, a Monzo account, a Barclays account, and I have them all with varying degrees of activity. Revolut I just use for my day-to-day. I've set a business account up on it and I'm transacting on it. I have stocks and shares in Revolut, and I used to have a little bit of crypto, not on there anymore. And then I have some savings pots on it. So of course they could close it down at any minute. Many of them could. I've looked at alternatives, which is there's a Nomad account with HSBC, but you need to have £75,000 in it constantly in order to meet their criteria. So it's quite a lot to hold with them, which is just in a basic account, no interest in it. If you have the 75k in it, you can then open a savings account, which they offer 4% interest on, and you can move money into that, but it can't be from the 75k. So it's just, there's always going to be risks attached to all of this, right? It's like, what's your level of tolerance? Where do you think you're comfortable at sitting? Where do you think you're happy holding your money? I don't think there's any straight answer to that. I said this on the last live Q&A, that a friend of mine said, cash in the bank is, you can fill in the W word that comes after it, right? Because holding cash at this point is depreciating faster than anything, right? So I try not to hold that much cash. I have enough for living and emergencies, things like if you end up in hospital with a 12.5 grand bill, I've got the cash to cover that. But beyond that, my money's in stocks and shares, crypto, it's on platforms working, or it's in the ISA. And in the ISA, it's either sitting in a little bit of cash, but mainly stocks and shares. Let me jump back because I saw a quick question there a second ago, which was, so where do you see yourself in 15 years? That's a good question. I would like to think that by that time period, we will have picked somewhere that we enjoy living, that more than tourist visa style length of time, and that we're either renting or we've bought something, if possible. I mean, if that's in Thailand, it's almost impossible to buy a place. It's renting, right? It's just renting an apartment. But I would like to think at that point that we've really eased back on the travel. As I've mentioned before, I'm 47. Yvonne is 48. We are considering retirement visas, but a retirement visa doesn't kick in until 50. So from 50, you can then apply, and as long as you have enough money in the bank to meet the criteria, you can apply for a longer term visa, which is 3-5 years, and then you can settle a bit more. So, in 15 years' time, my goal right now is that the money that I've put aside, I'm trying to not eat into that, and I'm trying to earn enough here on YouTube to cover my basic fundamentals. What I've started to then build from this beyond just the channel, as I mentioned in the last video, I've got 4 people now who have reached out to me, who have just said, we want to do a call, and we have a one-to-one call where I'm giving a bit of consultant work. They're a client, I'm the consultant, and I'm just sharing experience. And those 4 people have an idea of what they want to do. They just want to talk to somebody that's like, what do you do about insurance? What do you do about a visa? What do you do on a one-to-one where we can spend 50 minutes chatting that through and repeat? And I'm trying to build that. I'm trying to expand a little bit more into that. So that's kind of my goal, is to kind of scale that up a little bit and kind of enjoy that. Do you miss work? I mean, I feel like I am working, right? I do this every day. I'm generally making a video, or I'm doing something. Just now I'm trying to build a bit of a website. I've started the newsletter, which gives me a bit of opportunity to share just a little bit more on what I'm working on. I want to be able to dive a little bit more into the platforms that I use for stocks and shares, the strategy that I use for my stocks and shares. And then I make a video each day. And then after that, I have the rest of the day to myself. And if you were to ask me, like, what does a day look like? Because of the time difference, right? Because you guys are 8 hours, mainly most of my viewers are in the UK, you're 8 hours behind. So I can go out in early afternoon, make a video, takes me about an hour to record it, go for the walk, record it, edit it, publish it, put it up on YouTube, and then leave it. And then it's up for hours, right? It's up for, because it doesn't really go live in the UK till it's almost 9 o'clock here, my time. So it's got all day to sit and do this kind of YouTube marinade where it's looking through all your keywords and it's analysing the video. All of that happens behind the scenes, checks all your language that you've used on the video. All of that happens, and then it goes live. And then I spend a little bit of time answering comments and building the community and chatting. And then see the rest of the day, Yvonne and I go for a coffee. We have a nice walk. We watch a movie. I watch some YouTube, I learn some new stuff, and then see at night now, the reason that I'm kind of up now, which again, to kind of show you, it's 1:51 in the morning. The reason I'm awake at this time is because the stock market opens at 10:30 p.m. here, and I sit and have a look at what's going on, and I trade. I write contracts on the stock that I own. I sell put options, and I make a little bit of money from it. And then I'm done for the night. And then I get a long lie in the next morning, and then I rinse and repeat. So those are kind of my days, Paul. And in between all of that, I take a day off here and there where I just don't make something because it gets my brain a chance to rest and just deprogram a little bit. But do I miss the job that I was doing before? Dear God, no, absolutely not. Not in the slightest. I've had calls from people who are like, hey, you're out of job. Do you want to talk to us? We've got a brand. We're looking for a sales manager. We're looking for a account manager. And I'm like, no, thanks. No, thanks. I'm good with that. Yes, and that part blows my mind. I think the last couple of videos brought in about 3,000 people, and I'm just over the moon with that. If you'd asked me at the beginning of the year, when I started this channel, the goal was to just try and get it to the monetization level, 1,000 subscribers, 4,000 watch hours, by the time we were about to leave. And all of that has gone out of the window, and I am immensely grateful because it just fills my day with something that I absolutely love. I genuinely love this. I said to Yvonne the other day, I was doing all this DJing stuff in my kitchen and I was doing Twitch streams, and I just wish I'd started this sooner. And the reason why I didn't? Because the job was just in my head all day. You'd be working all day, I'd be at home. I was taking international calls with Germans, with Spanish, with Italians, with French, and my brain would be fried at the end of it. We're all talking in English, but you're adjusting for your accent constantly, right? Your accent, their accents, going on call after call, and then dealing with customers and sales. And at the end of the day, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, my brain was fried. No mental space to care about anything else, and then get up the next morning and start again. Then you get 2 days off at the weekend to somehow try and recharge and go back at it. Now, I know people work 6 days, people work shifts, there's nurses, there's all sorts. So I fully understand. I can only talk from my experience, but that job was like all consuming. And when I went out of it, suddenly I had this creative ability to start this and put my efforts into it. But I wish I'd started this sooner because it might have given me a way out quicker than it has. But yeah, so it's just it blows my mind. 16,000. I would never have thought of that. I'll tell you this, right? I do fondly think back, right, how much my dad would have loved this. Just how much this would have tickled him. Because as I said in other videos, he watched all of that Twitch stuff, right? Watched every stream that I did in the kitchen with Yvonne, and he loved all of that. And I got him to start a YouTube channel. My dad was a school janitor, right, for many, many years. So he was like, blue collar worker, low pay, and he just looked at a primary school, right? My dad was a primary school janitor. And then see when he retired, he went on to become a photographer, right? So his passion was always photography. And he just got stuck into it, and he became the Airdrie football team photographer, and he loved it. And I was always really inspired by that. I was like, he's retired and then he's picked this hobby up, and he was going and doing equestrian photography and race events and all sorts, and he built a small business out of it. And I was just like, well done, Dad, just leading from the front, showing you that retirement isn't like the end, right? And he did that Airdrie thing, and then I started making little YouTube videos, and I said to him, get a channel, make a channel, Dad, call it like the back of the net or something. And he went away and he did it, and he had a little GoPro, and he would stick it in the back of the goal at the Airdrie games, Airdrie football matches, and he would just record the goals going in. No editing, no sound effects, no music, nothing. Just the camera in the back of the goal. And he had that channel and he had like 300-400 followers. And he started out of nothing and I showed him how to put the videos together, and that was like another little thing that he did. And now I go and look at those videos from time to time just as a little memory, just as a little trip down memory lane. A YouTube channel out of nothing, right? So he wasn't making any money off of it. He just did it because it was like a hobby. It was like a little hobby, just a little cool thing. And so, yeah, channels are a good way to feel connected with people. I completely agree. You know, Jenny, you and I know each other from the Twitch stuff and we're friends, right? We've known each other for a long time. And through those years of like the lockdown stuff and the Twitch thing, it's how we all kept in contact, right? It was kind of like our way of having a little community together whilst we were all stuck in houses and feeling detached from reality. I'm looking at my phone here because I've got a couple of notes that I scribbled down of just little things that were going on. You know, one of the things about having the channel is I get a lot of people that reach out to me asking me if they want me to edit their videos. Like I get it on Reddit all the time. And I get it in emails. So people will write to me and say, oh, I can do your thumbnails. I can do your video editing. Are you interested? I'll do 2 videos for free. And I'm just like, nah. Like this is part of the fun for me. Like the making the video, the talking, this bit here, right? The community is like the cherry on top. That's the kind of the exciting bit. But see, actually the stuff that lives behind it, the creating the channel, the coming up with the titles, the SEO search, the hashtags, all of the things that go into it. I love the analytics of all of that. That's kind of my salesperson brain, looking at the data, looking at how you can improve things. I've made videos that I've posted that haven't gone well, and then 24 hours later, I've been able to tweak the details in it, and suddenly it's picked up and brought in new viewers because of little things that you've changed, whether it be a thumbnail or the title or the words that you use on a thumbnail. I like the intricacy of that stuff. There's a lot of learning in all of that. There's a lot of skill in it. And I like that. And I don't want to hand that off to somebody. Like I'm not Mr. Beast, right? I don't have a team of like 20 people making videos. It's just me. Some of them, it takes, you know, Paul was asking like, are you missing work? Sometimes I make these videos and some of them take me all day, right? Some of them I just put time and effort into because I really want to tell a story. Like the one about Yvonne and I getting married, the one about the live streams in our kitchen, that took me probably 10 hours to make that video. But most of them take me an hour. And I try and stick to that because then it feels like it's not a chore. So how long does it take you to edit the video? Like yesterday's video with a walk around the park, it took me longer to walk to the park than it did to shoot and edit the video. The park is at the Petronas Towers. Our apartment just now is maybe 800 meters from the park. I walked around there, I shot the video, which was 8 minutes or 10 minutes. I walked back and then I edited it in under an hour and then posted. So, you know, without selling myself short, if I do it in an hour and a half or 2 hours, I've really spent a lot of time on it. But typically about an hour to kind of make something and get it out there. Absolutely. Look, part of the kind of consultancy that I'm looking to do is to share what I've learned. So when I talk about, I'm trying to put this kind of consultant client package together where I'm doing these like Zoom calls where I'll spend like 50 minutes on a chat with you. The topics there will vary. I've got one person who's got a channel and wants to travel and only has 10 subscribers and is trying to build it and wants to understand how to do it. So yes, to sit down and just say, okay, look, let me share a screen with you. Here's the parts that you really need to be aware of. It's you posting videos on YouTube is more than just making a video and posting it with a title. There's so much more in it. There's understanding the keywords within the title. You know, people are like, I'll tell you this, right? Somebody watched my video in the park, and when I said about the sepsis thing, was like, oh, way to go with the clickbait title. And I was like, what's clickbait about it? I said sepsis in the title, and I had sepsis. Of course, I've got to kind of create some way to draw people in, right? You're not going to click on something that says, you know, Scottish guy walks around the park, right? It's just not exciting. But if I tell you like something that engages you, like, is this the end of all of this? Like, the thought process was, is this coming to an end? Do we head home after a serious illness and the money that it's caused? Well, then when you click on the video, it's the explanation. But not everybody thinks about that. So they post a video and say, you know, me walking through this bit of the town. Well, what was it about you walking through the town? What did you experience? What did you see there? What would engage a viewer to want to click on it? Then it's about the description. Then it's about the thumbnail. There's little intricacies in the thumbnail, like how many words people are willing to read on a thumbnail. The answer to that is 2 or 3, by the way. So 2 or 3 words is the maximum on a thumbnail that you should ever use. Anybody who's writing these big, long statements on a thumbnail, nobody's paying attention. So Kaza, to answer that question, yes, that's exactly what I'm trying to do. And the clients that I'm talking to now, a varying degree, some are like, hey, I've got a channel and I want to travel with it. What am I missing here? And others just want to be like, one person I'm speaking to next week that I've set up with has just sold their house. Him and his wife have got a plan to exit, and they just want to understand, where are you putting your money? How are you earning from that money? What options are there available to me? And I'm not a financial advisor. Don't have a background in that. I'm just a guy that's worked in sales, but I've done pretty well over the last couple of years to get us to a position of feeling like we're comfortable enough. Again, I use ChatGTP to assist me in all of that, to run analysis, like, how long is my money going to last if I spend this much? How long will it last if I spend that much? I've done all of that number crunching, and I know that I need to work in order to make all of this consistent. That's what I'm doing here. I'm here to work. I'm here to build a community, create content, and then also see what I can build out the back of it. But I couldn't have done all of that with a full-time job. Couldn't have done all of that with a full-time job. You need a hook. That is exactly it. You're absolutely spot on. Tell me any video that you go on and have a look at that doesn't have a hook. It doesn't have a draw you in, right? I've said this before. If you walk into the old days of walking into the video shop, right? Global or Azad Video, or can't remember the names of the rest of them. Blockbuster, Yvonne's shouting at me. If you walked into Blockbuster, right, and every video or every DVD on the shelf just had a white title, a white cover with a bit of text on it, you'd never pick those movies, right? You walk in, you see Stallone on the front, you see Rambo standing with a bazooka, and you're like, whoa, that looks good, I'm getting that. You see Bruce Willis, or you see Patrick Swayze in Dirty Dancing, right? And you're like, oh, that looks amazing. That's the cover, the hook. It's got something to draw you in. And you need to apply that same strategy to how you post on YouTube. And I've got people that follow this channel that I see their posts. I go and look at their content, and I just think, I see what you're trying to do, but you're just not nailing it. And that's why your videos are getting 20 views, 30 views. It's just, they're making good content, but they just haven't thought about everything else that goes round about it, right? That's where it really counts. Sorry, I seem to be constantly clicking on your questions here, Anne. I hope you don't mind me highlighting you here. Would you consider consultancy work further into your travels? I mean, I'm doing it now, is the simple answer. I plan on kind of building that. I don't want to have 100 people. I'm just looking to have a couple of people that I can work with. So, I'm talking to these 4 just now. I'm really just looking for 1 or 2 more, and then that's enough. And then as people kind of move off, I will then look to bring somebody new in to work with, because I don't want to have 100 people that I can only just give tiny bits of info to. I want to work with people that I can spend over a couple of weeks or a few months to help them and go on the journey with them, right? Because it's like, if you're talking about like YouTube, for example, you can't just make one video with somebody, post it, and then be like, right, that's all your problems fixed. It doesn't really work like that. Yvonne and I met, we met a guy called Daryl Solus, who some of you might be familiar with. He's a Scottish guy. Daryl, I sought out help from Daryl before coming here to Malaysia because he was here, and spent some time talking to him. And then when Yvonne and I got here recently, we went and met him, and there was another Scottish guy and a girl called Kirsty. And Kirsty's got a channel, and Kirsty and I were chatting, and she was struggling with her channel. She does astrology. Yvonne's shouting at me. I was going to say psychology. She does astrology stuff. And she was saying, oh, I've kind of got this channel. I've had a few videos that have been really successful, and then it's just gone straight off the boil. So I said to Kirsty, come and visit Yvonne and I's hotel and let's sit down and talk about it. And she came to visit us, and we sat down, and immediately I could see all the things that were wrong. Like when you set a YouTube channel up, you have to tell YouTube what the channel is about, and those settings are buried inside the actual channel structure, and none of that was there for Kirsty's channel. There was no information to say what she was making videos of. Now, I don't know how many millions of channels get created like every day. How does YouTube know what you do, what you do, what you do? You have to tell it, and then you have to post, and you have to post regularly, and you have to post consistently. And so you're kind of, I don't want to work with somebody and I'm like, okay, go make a video and then that's it. You need to be working together for weeks to kind of get up and running and find what works and test what works and then move from there. I mean, look, this channel, right? The first video I posted did 95,000 views. I was going to say it a few minutes ago, but I felt the touch of luck from my dad and all of that. If there was anything that could just have given me a little push on the way, right now I had to walk outside my front door. I had to make the video. I had to think about it. I did it as a one take, but I knew I had been processing that in my head for months, if not years, wanting to do it, and just never did it. And then I found the courage and the will to go and make it. And then that video kind of got this little touch that sent it off, right? Now, I then sat down and was like, wow, I've had all these views and I've gained all these followers. And see, the next video, it just went down and down and down and down. And at that, it was incredibly humbling. It was incredibly humbling to go from 100,000 views to 25,000 views, all the way down to about 800. And I was like, wow. And then I had to realize what I was trying to do with the channel, how I could post, the structure, how often I would post, and find that rhythm. And I think for many people, they get so put off by all of that. And sometimes you just need to sit with somebody who says, this is normal, this is okay, this is going to happen. You're going to get these ups and downs all the time, and you're going to need to just push through it, right? I use Reddit, and I go to Reddit and I'm in the newtubers, small YouTubers, partnered YouTubers pages, and in there I go in, and it's mainly kids. It's mainly young kids that are making gaming channels, and they're like, have I done something wrong? The algorithm hates me. Have I been blacklisted? And I just go in there with a little bit of experience and say, this is just normal. You just got to keep making videos. You've got to make something else, and you've got to research what works, and you've got to think about thumbnails and titles and all of those things every single time. And again, I use AI for a lot of that stuff, for brainstorming. You know, people are nervous about ChatGPT or whichever platform. It is a tool to be used to help you. I would expect in the next few years that most jobs will have been replaced by AI, but the AI will only do 80% of the work. It needs 20% of the input from you. It needs your creative ability to feed into it. And that's what I do. I brainstorm with it. I share analytics with it. And we talk about titles, what I'm thinking, what my structure of it is. I can download a video that I've made and convert the audio into text and feed the text into the AI and program it as to what I talk like, what words I use, what tone of voice that I use, and then brainstorm titles. And what I'm looking for there is words and things that I might not think of straight off of the bat, and all of that kind of, that's that two-way. That's like me and you sitting right now talking about a channel idea and you getting instant feedback. That's what I do with AI when I don't have anybody around to thrash these things around. And then, of course, you could just have an AI girlfriend out of whatever you can get from that program, whatever help or assistance just now. Here's something that I don't know if you've seen, right? So ChatGTP has just launched a new browser. It's called Atlas. So I'm talking to you right now on a program called Riverside, which is running on Google Chrome, right? So you've got Safari, you've got Google Chrome. Well, ChatGTP has just launched a new version called Atlas. In Atlas, you can open up a web page. So you can go to something for, let me give you an example, booking.com. I can go to booking.com and in the ChatGTP window at the side, I can say, find me accommodation with a maximum value of £700 for the 25th of November to the 20th of December in a nice area of Bangkok that's got nice food areas round about it, and go. And what it then does is it connects to the browser and it does all of the searching, all of the research and everything for you. So you don't have to do the typing, you don't have to scroll through it all. It then goes, connects to the web page and the mouse moves. It looks as if you're doing the work on the browser, but it's actually ChatGTP's AI working on your behalf. You can leave that for a couple of minutes and then it comes back and says, I've found 3 locations, 5 locations that fit your criteria, and feed it back to you. That kind of stuff is there to be used. I know there's like a fear factor in all of this, but I'll take you back to last week. You know, I was using a doctor programmed ChatGTP and asking it to say, telling it how I was feeling. And in that's when it said to me, go to A&E now. No messing about, get there now. These symptoms are not good. And that was the persuasion to get out of my bed and get to the hospital on time. Let's see this. It takes quite a bit of work to make a video and be consistent. Not easy to do. You can get burned out very quickly. You really can, and I totally agree with this. This is why, you know, I try and stick to as many days of the week as I can. In some weeks that's 4, in other weeks that's 5. It's very, very rarely, if ever, 7, because I just don't have the mental capacity to do that. It's about finding a balance. But I would also say this, if your output, depending on the content that you're creating, is a weekly fit or a fortnightly fit or a monthly fit, then stick to that, because the algorithm then understands when you're posting. I follow creators who post every Friday night. I know the video's coming out every Friday night. I go look for it on a Friday night. I've got others that post every Sunday morning. I go look for it every Sunday morning. You then build an audience around that content, knowing that that's when that video is coming out. So consistency matters. The algorithm picks up on that consistency. Your viewers pick up on it. But you need to determine what works for you. I'm not working. I don't have a job to concern myself about. This is it. I love the daily output, the scratching the itch. I can tell you that on a day that I take a day off, the next day I have to make a video, because my belly starts to give me this message of like, you need to create something. My brain starts to go into overdrive. You need to make something. And so I then go and make that content. And Yvonne can tell, she just looks at me like, yeah, get on with it, go and do it. Because I'm like, I start to get twitchy, where I'm like, oh, I need to do something. Because once I've made it and I've finished it, I kind of feel like, I've achieved something today. I've achieved something, and that feels pretty good. But you're right, It's about consistency. Okay, what else have we got? What other questions have we got? Let me scroll back through. Know your audience and be focused on it. Try not to deviate too much. Agreed. Again, that's a key lesson that I think I've picked up on here. I have jumped around a little bit on topics on this channel, and I've definitely lost people through that, and others that I've gained, and then maybe they've not been so interested in other conversational points that I've had. So it's definitely about trying to find the people that fit with you and that content. You know, they talk about a niche, like you need to find your niche. And, you know, I would say to people that are here, if you're thinking about starting a channel, whatever skill it is that you have, if you love knitting and you want to make videos about knitting, that's your niche. If you're good at accounts and you just want to talk to people about spreadsheets and how to track your finances, that's your video, that's your channel, that's your content. That's what you make. For me, I just love this, right? Like talking. My job, my whole life has been talking, selling things for businesses, building relationships with people, and then enjoying the conversational back and forth. So I enjoy being able to talk about stocks and shares, politics is what's going on, travel, but I can see the swing. Like, you know, if I go and then suddenly go to a supermarket tomorrow and I make a video, I'll tell you, if we go to this barbecue place tomorrow that I've been fantasizing about, I was thinking, do I make the video and do I post it here? Do I post it on my Nostalgia Bites channel? Like, what do I do with that? Like, how do I figure that out? But yeah, know your audience is a really key point. Let me jump back. Let me see. Do you have local Malaysian friends? No. Nope, we don't. There's people who have been messaging me on the channel that are here in Kuala Lumpur. With being ill over the last couple of weeks, I haven't had a chance to arrange to meet anybody. Will we? Yes, I would really like to do that. There's a couple of people that have invited us for coffee, just to say hello, which I think would be super nice to do. I've met people here, but they are British. They are people that have moved here, have relocated. So I will do that with them for sure. But to meet Malaysian people, I will say this, the Malaysian people that I've got chatting to so far have been so nice. So nice. Sorry, I got a super chat as well from Mr. Monty Fontaine. You're looking well, mate. How do you think people will be making money in 10 years from now? Is the office doomed? Is the office doomed? You know, Mr. Monty, I think the office was doomed when COVID kicked in. You know, that whole environment of people going to the office. You know, I was working in London, 2019. I was going to London 5 days of the week. I was getting on a train from Northampton. It was costing me £7,800 a year to get the train to London. My company car was sitting in the car park of the train station. And I was going 5 days of the week and in the office. And then 2020, all of that changed. And I think we're now in a world where people just don't want to go back to that. And you've seen businesses like Apple and JP Morgan tell their staff, get back to business, otherwise you're going to be out of a job. And the pushback from that has been to such a level that I haven't seen a resolution of it so far. The company I was working at before I went redundant, most of the staff were based in Germany, and many of them wouldn't go to the office. And I'll say this, productivity was going through the floor. The products that they were building were faced with endless issues, product testing not getting done, and I would have equated most of that to not going to the office. But the management team were stuck in this challenge of how do we get people back? So I think longer term, remote working just seems like it's kind of the norm. But in terms of how are we going to be working, you know, the AI thing right now is so fascinating to me because if you're paying attention to it, right, over the last few days, if anybody knows who Michael Burry is, right, if you've ever seen the movie The Big Short, Michael Burry is the guy that Christian Bale plays, the autistic guy who shorts the market and becomes a billionaire out of it. Well, he came out last week and said that the AI industry was a massive bubble because you've got ChatGTP, Nvidia, Microsoft, and many other businesses are just moving money between them, right? And so Michael Burry came out and said, I'm going to short this market last week. And he's put, I think, $910 million into gambling that the price of Nvidia is going to come down. It's going to have to fall because this house of cards is going to crumble. Now, at the same time as that happening, Sam Altman, who is the CEO, I believe, of ChatGTP, the company itself was involved in an interview on the news where they hinted that they might need a bailout from the US government, right? And they are basically saying that they're not earning enough money for how much they need to spend to stay ahead. And they kind of used a bit of a blackmail tactic where they said, we need to stay ahead of China. It's important that we stay one step ahead of China. You then had the CEO of Nvidia come out and back up that statement. Now, the only person in all of this who has called this out months and months in advance of all of this, outside of Michael Burry, was Elon Musk. Elon Musk was involved with ChatGTP or Open, I think it's called OpenAI, is the parent company. He called it out months and months ago because they wanted to be a non-profit business. And then Sam Altman turned it into a profit-making business. And they're talking about floating on the stock market, but they're not making anywhere near enough money from the subscriptions to cover the costs of the data centers, the chip manufacturing, the electricity uses, the water that it's using. So now you have Michael Burry who's come out and said, I'm going to short these companies because I think this is a bubble and the bubble is going to burst. And I don't know if you saw, but last week, if you were following the stock market, Chat GPT, I keep getting that wrong. I know I've been called out. Chat GPT, not Chat GTP. But the stock market tumbled last week and it's been at its all-time highs. And Nvidia took a hit and a whole host of businesses that were in that area. One of the only that didn't decline last week was Apple, because Apple doesn't really have a stake in the game. Microsoft owns about a 15% stake in ChatGTP. And so there was a dent in the market last week, which made a lot of people very, very nervous. Crypto fell from, I think Bitcoin was about 114K, dropped to almost bang on 100K. Significant drop. And so 10 years time, right, where will the office be? What will the office working environment be? I think either AI will have progressed phenomenally, in which case, back to what I said minutes ago, which was 80% of the work will be done by AI, 20% will be a human input. And that's only going to be X number of people on the planet doing that, right? So what the rest of them do, I don't know. These are just jobs disappearing left, right, and centre. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens right now, because some months ago, Intel fell into some, was it Intel? IBM, one of those, fell into some issues, and the US government bought a stake in them, and now their share price has rocketed because the US government, basically that is a bailout, right? That is a bailout by buying your interest in that company. I could see the same happening with OpenAI or ChatGPT. But right now, the US government, Trump said days ago, no, we're not going to do that. And Sam Altman is finding himself in a tricky situation right now where they can't afford to stay alive. They're talking about going public very soon. Who's going to buy shares in a company that clearly has no path to profitability? It's going to be fascinating to look out for. And then as I see here, I use Grok because it's Musk. You know, I'm using multiple. I've tried each of them out. I find ChatGPT right now to be my most reliable, but I've been using Grok for some stocks and shares programming that I'm doing, mainly because Grok is programmed from all of the tweets, right? So Grok has access to every trend that's going on the X platform. So when there's rumors and there's talk about businesses and their share price and their stock and what they're up to, Grok is ahead of the curve versus Chat GPT. But I watched a video some days ago about a company who, had given various different AI platforms a budget, and Grok was the number one in terms of its investment results after a number of weeks. So really quite fascinating that they're being given an allowance to spend in the stock market. And what actually Grok did to get ahead, to increase its revenue or increase its profits, was it shorted Bitcoin. So it was reading the trends online as to what was happening, and it shorted Bitcoin, which resulted in about a 500% increase. It was a video I saw on YouTube that was talking about this, but they never quite tell you what programs they use. They talk about the AI software, but they don't quite tell you how they did it behind that. I can tell you that my way of working with those platforms is that I share my financials. I share what my goals are. I have a GPT programmed to understand what I need to earn from YouTube, what I need to earn from my stocks and shares, my savings, my interest rates per month to fund Yvonne and I's life here and whilst we travel. I have a budget set, which is about somewhere between £1,500 and £2,000 a month, which should give me more than enough costs for everything that we need. And I'm trying to earn that. So I've shared what I earn here on YouTube every month. Last month I earned just over £1,000. The next month I'm coming in just slightly below that. And then beyond that, I have some cash money, I have some ISA stocks and shares. And then I use the interactive broker platform where I trade options. I write cash secure puts or covered calls, either on stock that I would consider buying or stock that I already own. And I write typically 30 to 60-day contracts, and I bring in premium from those contracts. And that gives me a monthly allowance to try and not eat into my overall savings. That's my how to live strategy. Let's see, Anne-Marie, I haven't used Grok or GPT, not really into it. Yeah, I listen, I can completely understand. When I sat here in our hotel just a couple of weeks ago with Kirsty, who was doing her astrology, I was talking to her about all of this, and she was like, whoa, this is a world I haven't stepped into yet. And then when I started showing her how it worked and we started having some conversations back and forth, I could see her mind start to shift slightly, like, oh, okay, you can use it as this business partner where you're telling ChatGPT what role you want it to play. So I'll use it like, I want you to be my business partner. I want you to ask me difficult questions. I'll often say to it, I don't want you to sugarcoat anything. I don't want any plaudits. I don't want any niceties. I want you to challenge me. I want you to challenge me on what I'm trying to do. And then I'll ask it to ask me questions about what my strategies are so that we can get into the details. And then I set frameworks for it so that if I'm thinking about doing something, a bit of work, that I don't fall outside of those parameters. It's a little bit like going 10-pin bowling and putting the buffer rails up, that when I'm thinking of a strategy, I'm not going outside of those buffer rails and breaking what I would consider my safety rules on it. And I use Chat GPT to keep me inside those. Does day trading work? Chris, not an environment I want to get into. I am not trying to gamble with our savings. I was following a YouTuber, I still do now, a gentleman called Uncle Bruce. I discovered Uncle Bruce's channel in 2020 when GameStop was going through its whole crazy run online, right? That's a whole topic on itself. But he was an ex-trader. He had ran teams of staff who were trading. And over the last 5 years, I've listened to that man on a very regular basis explain how to earn income from stocks and shares that you hold, but not being the gambler, not being somebody that's trying to guess the market. I don't do that. I take the position of the bank. I take the position of I either have stocks that I'm writing covered calls on and I'm willing to let them go for a certain fee, but picking up a premium, or I've got money in my account and I'm writing cash secure puts against stock that I would be willing to own. And I do that for a premium. And I just pick up $200 here, $100 there in a month. And that is enough to top up my revenue from YouTube that gives me enough to live on. So I'm not trying to earn tens of thousands. I'm not trying to gamble on which way the market goes, because as you can see from last week, it just takes one tweet from somebody like Michael Burry, and I think the market lost something like 20 billion in the space of like a day, 2 days, was wiped off of it. So, really crazy. Yeah, that's not my position. John Woods, I need to leave. No problem, mate. I just wanted to say thanks very much for sending me the messages on Ko-Fi, buddy. I really appreciate that. Bought us, Yvonne and I, a coffee today, over the last couple of days, rather. So cheers for that, John. Look after yourself. And then in terms of crypto, just to answer this question here, in terms of crypto, yes, I have crypto. I have crypto in two forms. I don't own any Bitcoin. I don't trade crypto. I hold crypto long term. I have a small amount of Ethereum, ETH is the ticker. I have that in a wallet, but I don't trade it. I don't even loan it out for interest. I have recently been buying a stock on the market, which is run by a guy called Tom Lee, and I'm trying to remember the name of the ticker. Give me a second and I'll just confirm it for you. I think it's BMNR, but I'm just going to check. Let me see, then I can answer this question. Yeah, BMNR. Now again, I'm not giving anybody any advice to go buy any kind of stock. This is just one that I personally like. BMNR is called Bitmine Inversion Technologies. It's a guy called Tom Lee, who is entrepreneur, and this business has been set up to buy and hold Ethereum. Now, Ethereum has been picked as the crypto that many of the major banking industries will operate their systems on. And so I can see a long-term future for Ethereum. If you look at Bitcoin right now, which has been as high as 120K recently, and then back down to close to 100K just within the last days, I feel like I'm priced out of the market there. But with Ethereum, it's still sitting at around $3,500, $4,500. I think it's still got some room to run. So what BMNR has been doing is buying Ethereum. They currently hold around 2% of the total Ethereum market, and their goal is to get to 5%. So the stock right now is sitting at about $40. So I've been buying some of it. It's just felt like a business that I'm interested in because it has a bit of longevity. So I'm kind of dipping a little bit into crypto here and there. But when it comes to stocks and shares, there's a couple of businesses that I really like. Those are the ones that I'm kind of generally focusing on. Okay, any other questions? Any other comments? Tax, let's see what this was. You're a tax resident this year anyway, too many days since April 2025. No, actually, you can submit a split year. If you're talking about the UK, that is. So in terms of, I'm just going to flash that up again. I'm a tax resident in the UK from April 2025 until the 17th of September. When I submit my self-assessment next year, I will have confirmed that I left the UK on the 17th of September, and I've completed the HMRC P85 document to confirm that I've left. So my taxes for the UK will be from beginning of April until 17th of September, and then I've left the country and I've got evidence to provide that I've left the country. And then beyond that, everything that I've earned from the 17th of September onwards will not have any tax liable in the UK, providing I don't return to being a full-time citizen in the next 5 years, just to clarify exactly that. All right. Good evening. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. Quentin Wilson has died, only 68. Do I know who Quentin Wilson is? Oh, the Top Gear guy, Quentin Wilson, has he? That's a shame. R.I.P. Quentin Wilson. My throat's going. Can you hear that? It's starting to get a bit horsey. Who else can I answer here? Did I see a question there about covered calls? Never trade if you're not at peace. Yeah, I completely agree with that. Don't trade with what you're not willing to lose, right? And for me, it's just been, I'm looking at very small amounts of earnings. And then Rob here is asking, do you pay tax in countries you visit? No, because I'm not in those countries long enough, Rob. You need to be in a territory for 180 days before you become, or before you need to become tax compliant. That's in a calendar year. So from January to December, 180 days before you would fully qualify for paying tax in that territory. We'll rotate round different countries to try and avoid that. And then once we do, again, just to confirm, if we decide to settle here in Malaysia or Thailand, the tax is significantly lower than it is in the UK. So I'm not tax adverse. I'm not saying I never want to pay tax anywhere, but for now, I'm moving around often enough to not have to. And then we love Yvonne, the woman of details. Exactly, I'm looking at Yvonne. Somebody asked me the other day, there's been a couple of comments about saying, how is Yvonne? And, does Yvonne want to have a channel and all that? Like, when I set this up, I wanted it to be a couples channel. I've got 2 microphones, right? I bought 2 microphones for Yvonne to have a mic and me to have a mic. Yvonne, every time I try and engage her on any of it, she's like, no, right? So I'm not going to strong arm my wife into taking part on a channel if she doesn't feel comfortable in it. She dips in and out when she feels like that's enough for her, but beyond that now. But let me say this to you, right? Let me tell you a little funny thing about this, right? See, I wore this hat the other day, right? I wore this hat when I was out on a walk in the park, right? My sister bought me this hat. My sister went to see Oasis in Los Angeles, and she bought me one, and she bought Yvonne one, right? And we've both got it. Now, see inside it, right? It has this bit here, right? And I said to Yvonne, sweetie, that's packaging. And Yvonne was like, it isn't. That's for your sweat. That's to go around the front of your hat like that, right? That's to soak up the sweat. And I was like, it isn't. That's packaging, right? Anyway, she refused to take that out of her hat. And so we've been walking around with it, right? And every time it just falls out the inside of the hat. And the other day I had to go to Chat GPT and say, could you tell my wife what this is? And Chat GPT was like, that's packaging, you're supposed to throw that away. And that was the only way I could get Yvonne to believe that that wasn't supposed to go on the inside of your hat. Because she's like, that's for sweat, John, that's for the sweat, that's to soak that up. It isn't. Hi, John, I hope you and Yvonne are well. We are. Thank you so much for asking, I appreciate that. I am on the mend. I've had a few days of just sitting around the apartment and Yvonne's just been chilling with me because I'll tell you, because I've had the stent fitted and then removed, I'm not allowed in a swimming pool for about 6 weeks. And we've been in this apartment now for like 2 weeks. This apartment is so nice. Like, I'll show you it before we leave here, right? I'll make a video and give you a tour. This place is nice. And yesterday, after being here for 2 weeks, we went to see the pool and the gym and all the various amenities that's in here, and it's lovely. And I cannot tell you how frustrating it is to go and see the pool and the sun is shining and you just want to get in for a swim, and I can't, I'm not allowed because I've got to protect myself against bacteria. I've got to make sure that I don't end up with another infection because that would be horrific. But yeah, so I've gone and had a look at the swimming pool, and today I said to Yvonne, why don't you go in the pool and I'll just sit at the side and dip my legs in it? And she was like, I can't be bothered. So we've watched a couple of films today, and then I'm trying to build a little bit of a page where you can book this one-to-one consultation with me, just to make it a bit easier, because just now I've been doing it via email. Okay, are we still online? Did I lose people there? I know the internet can be a little bit temperamental here at times, so I'm just trying to make sure it doesn't go offline at any point. So just keeping an eye on all of that. Okay. Don't mock Yvonne, Justin. You're getting, see, Yvonne, people are sticking up for you now. Don't mock Yvonne, John. Exactly. I said to her when I was in the hospital, right, what have you been doing when you're back at the apartment? And she's like, watching serial killer shows on Netflix. And I'm like, she's in research mode. Now, the question is, right, I think we might have to go and see this barbecue place tomorrow. It's just down the street from us. And I've been following the guy on Instagram, and he posted these pictures of like these massive salt beef sandwiches or the brisket. And honestly, it's been the only, between that and cheese sandwiches, it's the only thing that's been on my mind every day is like, I just want to go and eat a big bit of brisket, a big bit of barbecue. So we might go tomorrow afternoon. So here's the question, right? If we go to the barbecue place, do I video it and do I post it on the channel? Or is that just too left field for, sepsis, leave the UK, sell all your stuff. Here's barbecue. Exactly, Tickety Blue. Brisket. Look at that. I'm tripping over my own words now. Brisket. The guy who owns the place, Malaysian guy, I can tell he's just so excited about the business. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait to go in there. If there's one thing I love, it's like just see like a proper Texas style barbecue. They used to have some of those places in Glasgow where we lived, but they were never quite like, they don't have a proper smoker. It would be in like Sucky Hall Street or Argyle Street, and they would be making it like, they're just making it in like a microwave or something, right? They're not making it in like a proper smoker. This guy down the street has a smoker out the back. I've seen it, and I can't wait to go in and try it. Let's see. Have you been treated as a migrant in Malaysia? Does it give you a different perspective of migrants in the UK? I feel like that's a bit of a kind of like a kind of controversial way of asking me that question there. I want to be clear. I don't have an issue with migrants. I don't think people in general in the UK have an issue with migrants. I think we have a difference in people who are coming into the country and what they're coming into the country to do, right? Like, I'm a migrant here. I'll tell you what hasn't happened. I haven't arrived and been given anything for free. I didn't go to the hospital and immediately jump to the front of the queue and get all of the medical treatment handed to me. I paid my way. And when I was in there, everybody else was paying their way. There was Chinese people. There was an Indian gentleman that was in the room next to us. Everybody was paying the exact same way. The bill was handed to you, you paid it, and you got the treatment. In terms of how we've been treated, I would say there's a blend, right? There's Malaysian people themselves seem to be incredibly friendly. The nurses who were treating me were so inquisitive as to why I was here, where I was from, how I earned money. I was talking to one of them about my YouTube channel, and she was like, I just wanted to know everything about it. I would say the friendliness of them, but there's a very mixed demographic here. I would say there's a large Indian population. Yvonne and I are tattooed white people? Do we get looks? Do we get stares? Do we get, you can see people are looking at you? Yes, without a doubt. That is happening all the time. I'm quite heavily tattooed. My legs are tattooed. I wear shorts. People are staring at me all the time. But I'm also at a stage where I just don't really care. Like, I'm just living my life and getting on with things, and I'm not judging people. And if I don't really care if they're judging me, just getting on with things. But I would also say the friendliness aspect of it is welcoming. And I would say the safety aspect of it, as I talked about before, Yvonne and I have walked out in the street at 4 o'clock in the morning through Bar Street, and it felt immensely safe. It felt very comfortable. I think, would you walk down, through the middle of London at 4 o'clock in the morning right now? I'm not so sure about that. Let me skip back a little bit because I think interview the owner, please. Do you know? I actually would love to do that. If the gentleman that owns the place was open to chatting to me, I think that would be awesome. I'd love to do it. You mentioned sobriety in and about your page. I don't know. I'm not at a stage that I need AA meetings. I wouldn't define myself as an alcoholic. Have I been a drinker? Yes. I now would consider myself, in the time that since we left on the 17th of September, I would say this is the most sober I've ever been, because we've just simply not been around alcohol at all. We went to Dubai first of all, and then we came here. There was a bar street next to where our hotel or our last apartment was, but I have zero temptation to want to have a drink. I've never been to an AA meeting. I've never had any need for that. I've never considered myself as an alcoholic or a substance dependent person. Not to say that there's anything wrong with that, but that's just not really. That's not me. Walking around Borough Town at 4 a.m. is special. Good evening, Mr. Cliffy Burrows. I hope you're well, mate. Lovely to see you. Let me see this. Malaysia is such a heavily travelled country. I don't think it's unheard of to see. Yeah, it's just definitely very mixed. Definitely a very mixed group of people that are staying here. Look, it's not perfect. It's not perfect. There's homelessness. There's begging in the streets in some areas, but it feels very. It's done in a really subdued way, if that makes sense. Like, when you see crazies, right? I'm from Glasgow. You walk outside of Central Station in Glasgow, there are crazies. There are the zombie apocalypse. There's the fentanyl epidemic. I haven't seen any of that here. Look, I'm in the city centre. A friend of mine who I think's still in the chat here, Ian, keeps saying to me, you need to get out into the suburbs, mate. You need to get out into the suburbs. Go see what it's really like. I think their next stay will be in the suburbs. But it feels like, it's supposed to be third world. It feels incredibly modern here. Very futuristic at times, walking around here. And somebody asked me, do I miss Northampton? I miss the swans and the geese and the ducks. But I don't miss Northampton. I was going to make, right, you can tell me here in the chat, right, you can answer this for me, right? I was going to make a slightly cheeky video, and I kind of held off because I was like, I don't want to be like, I'm not trying to antagonize people, right? I'm not trying to be that person, but I was going to make a video walking around one of the malls in search of a vape shop, a casino, a Poundland, or a bookies. I was going to play a game of saying, let's see how long it takes me to find a vape shop, a bookies, or a casino. But it's not like that here. The malls are stunning, and they are heavily populated. Again, like I would go to Milton Keynes Mall with Yvonne, Milton Keynes Town Centre Mall, and we would go for a walk. And it would feel soulless. It would feel absolutely soulless And you come here to the malls, and I ask myself this, is it because Malaysia isn't really a drinking country? If you buy alcohol here, it's much more expensive than it's going to be anywhere else. It's heavily taxed. So it's expensive to drink here if you want to. Is it because people don't drink that they are more affluent in their ability to spend and they're going to the shopping malls? Because the buzz in the shopping malls is very different to what I've been used to recently when it comes to shopping. And no, I definitely haven't seen a Spoons or a Greggs. I haven't seen one of them. Now, I'll tell you, I saw a video recently about Genting Highlands, and I definitely want to go up there and have a little look around. The casino and the kind of theme park and all that looks very cool. And you can take a taxi from here fairly cheap, I think for about £10 or something will cost you in a taxi to go from where we're staying at the Petronas Towers out to the Genting Highlands. So I want to do that. We've, you know, I want to kind of stress again, how Yvonne and I are trying to live here is to just live. What I mean by that is just, we're not tourists. I want to say, like, we met somebody recently who moved out here, right? And they were here for about 2 weeks and then they moved back home. They went back to the UK because they felt overwhelmed by the transition here. They were on their own and they just struggled with it. And they had done a bit of a European trip before they got here. And by the time they got here, I think they were a bit unwell. And I think the mindset was that they were tourists, that they were here as a tourist, right? So they were trying to do everything like every day, like get up, right, we'll go here, we'll go do that, we'll go do that. We are not doing that. We are so relaxed in our days, which is try and make a video, watch a bit of TV, watch a movie, go for a swim, go to the gym. Like those are the things that I want to do when I'm not sick. Ease into your day and relax a little bit and then go for a bite to eat and a coffee. I said this on a past video. My dream of all of this was to be able to just get up, not stress about money, go have a coffee and just relax in my day. A bit of heat, a bit of sunshine, and just take it easy and survive. And that's what I'm doing. So I'm not treating it like I'm on a 2-week holiday and I must get something done every single day for this to be successful. It's just calm. And the reason I say all of that, right, exactly to that point, Tickety Boo, state of mind, right? I've just spent 31 years running around like an absolute headless chicken, chasing sales, chasing performance, chasing customers, running sales deals, doing marketing activities, traveling to Germany, traveling all over the UK, going to business meetings. And this is the first time I've just stopped. And what I'm not trying to do is fill my days with that kind of stuff again. And it's not that I don't want to go see things in Malaysia. I'm just in no hurry to do it. I'm just in no hurry. And see, when we have to leave here at the end of December and go travel somewhere else, see if I haven't done anything in that time, it won't bother me because will we be back in weeks or a month and we have time then? Like, this isn't a 2-week holiday. This is where we live. This is how we're living. And it's just about relaxing. Yvonne's still carrying the stress of like her job. She's still going through redundancy talks and she's on her sabbatical. And Yvonne says to me some days, like, I'll get up and I'll say, right, I'm going to make a video today. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And then Yvonne will sometimes look at me and she's like, I don't know what it is I'm trying to do. And I'm like, you are trying to finish leaving your job. You're trying to figure out what happens with that. And when you're done, the space that will clear in your mind, right? On the 26th of November this year, we're on the 9th of November now. That 26th of November was the day that I was told I was being made redundant. That's when I fell ill. That's when I started to have panic attacks. So on the 26th of November, I'll anniversary what was a horrific period and a stressful time of my life. And I sit here now, having started this as a business and absolutely loving the outcome of it all and just moving at my own pace. Silence is deafening. But yeah, misty mornings and the fog. Yeah, coming out of the house in Northampton and seeing the canal path and the fog and all that. Do I miss that? Yeah. Right, where's that tinfoil? Get my tinfoil hat. I'll tell you what I've noticed here, right? See, when I wake up in the morning and I pull the curtains open, do you know what I see outside? The sky, the sun. Do you know what it looks like? A blue sky. Do you know what it doesn't look like? Northampton with like trails going over my head that suddenly merge into being massive clouds that then just turns into being a cloudy day for the rest of the day, for the next day, for the next day. I don't miss that at all. Don't miss that at all. So what sort of performance you aim for your investments? Paul, I'm trying to generate between £1,500 and £2,000 a month, right? Total income. My YouTube channel brings in somewhere between £800 and £1,000 of that. So I then need to supplement the rest of it between interest on my savings accounts and premium from my stocks and shares. So if I bring in $200, $400, $500 in a 30-day period from writing contracts, tick. That's all I need. I don't need any more than that. I'm not trying to chase crazy returns. I hold enough stock that I can write those contracts. And if the stock moves and I need to let the contracts go, I just turn around and write a cash secure put against the same stock for the next 30 days and bring in a bit more premium again. And that's all I'm doing each time. Can you still renew your UK passport? So Yvonne and I, Rob, we renewed our passports right before we left. So we've both got brand new clean passports. Now, when we reach a point that we need to renew them, you can renew them internationally, right? You can go to a British embassy and you can renew them. You'll pay for it, but you can have a passport generated for you in another territory. So I'm not too worried about that. But thinking ahead, we both went and got brand new passports before we left. So we've both got 10 years and completely fresh pages. And I'm not quite sure what the context is there, but yeah, citizenship doesn't expire. That's right. Yeah, I mean we're not denouncing ourselves as British citizens. We're still British. What I've done is remove myself from the HMRC system via the P85 form. You can go on and have a look at that. You can go to HMRC's website and type in and check for P85. P85 is just you notifying HMRC that you've left the country and you don't have any assets. By assets, I mean property. Yeah, we're not, again, just to confirm, we're not giving up citizenship. We're British. We'll maintain our British passports. We're just not part of the HMRC system anymore. Let's see what this is. Been sacked and always leave a massive... I can't read that. And you do you, John and Yvonne. That's exactly what we're doing. You know, like I read a comment a couple of days ago about the nomad lifestyle, right, and moving around a little bit. And somebody posted to me like, yeah, I was kind of half-arsing it because if I was doing it right, I would apply for a visa. Like, I've not applied for a visa for the following reasons. I'm too young for a retirement visa. I don't know where I want to be long-term to apply for a nomad visa. And as I said, I'm kind of treating it like the smorgasbord. I love being here for, we've been here for We're in 2 months now. By the time we get to the end of 3 months, I'll be looking forward to going. I'll be looking forward to traveling somewhere else. And we really want to go to Bali, and we'll spend a month in Bali. We really want to go to Vietnam, where we can stay for 45 days. And we really want to go and spend time in Thailand and move around in Thailand. I want to do Bangkok. We want to go and see some of the islands. We can spend 2 months in Bangkok or in Thailand. And in between that, we'll be back here to Malaysia to spend time here, because the flights between each of them are a couple of £100. It's all within the budget that we've set out. I posted last month, right, that the cost of living, we spent something like £2,800. £1,000 of that was the flights from the UK out here. So we spent £1,800 to live in the month. See, this month now, it is significantly less. Significantly less. Yes, I've been in hospital, so that's been a bit of a cheat code. I've had meals in the hospital, but we haven't spent anywhere near the amount of money that we did last month. I mean, it's the 9th of November. I'm shooting ahead of myself a little bit here, but we haven't gone out for crazy meals. We've bought things in the supermarket. The Petronas Towers has a supermarket called the Cold Store. It is incredible inside. It's beautiful inside and amazing food. We've gone there, we've bought salads, we've had ready-made meals, which is like salmon and rice, and we've had sushi, and it's all been significantly cheaper than last month. So the cost of living is within our budget. And then next month, when we leave, we'll have flights incorporated into it, but super low in cost. Right, that's 2 hours of chat. If there's anything else that anybody wants to ask quickly before I log off of this, then I will be happy to quickly answer any other points. If not, then I shall love you and leave you on this Saturday evening for you, 3 o'clock in the morning here for me. I'm going to go and have a shower and then relax in bed and watch a little bit of YouTube. And then tomorrow, wake up and have a nice coffee, and then maybe go to the barbecue place. Oh, Yvonne's telling me I can't have a coffee. All right, water, and I'll watch Yvonne have water. Okay, let's see. I know what you mean about your own pace. I've taken early retirement this year, fed up with paying Scottish tax. Feels great, no work, no overtime. Amazing. You know, I don't say this lightly. See, when people tell me that they've already done kind of what we're doing, I can only say amazing, well done. Like, I applaud people that have already walked this path ahead of us and are doing similar, right? You're just kind of easing into retirement, not trying to get a million things done, but just taking your time and enjoying things. And yeah, I'll do my best to fill in the barbecue place. I'm so excited. That's the kind of things that just light up my day now, you know, going and having a coffee, go for a swim in the pool, go and eat some barbecue dinner and enjoy a little bit of lunch and then laze about. I've got myself into a routine now where about 5, 6 o'clock, I have a little nap, a little 30 minutes, a little shut eye and chill. And then I get into the evening and I do my stocks and shares Monday to Friday. And I would like to try and do this every week, one live session a week to just have this chat, because I love the questions. I love all the chat from people. Les Reed, thank you so much. Cheers for joining us. Eric, stay healthy, people. Exactly. And Chris, great stream. Thanks so much. I really appreciate it. I love chatting to you all. It's super interactive and just good fun answering questions and firing things back and forth. I watched the sunrise. Very nice, Diane. That sounds lovely. All right, everybody, listen, thanks. Have a great rest of your weekend. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday night if you're in the UK, your Sunday morning. We'll catch up with you. And if I do the barbecue place, hopefully I'll post that video tomorrow for you all to see on a Sunday. Thanks. This has been awesome. I really appreciate you all for the super chats that came in earlier. Thank you so much. That's really appreciated from us as well. That will get us a little coffee and cake in the next couple of days. So thanks. Have a great evening, everyone. Much love from Yvonne and I.